Let's get rocking and rolling. Fantastic. Well, welcome everybody, and thanks for joining today. My name is Mike Condon, and I have the pleasure of being our Vice President of Franchise Development here at HomeWell. And as you can see on the screen, lots of folks with us today, but most importantly and most excitedly, we have Alanna Clark. Alanna is one of our newer franchisees in the Carmel, Indiana area. Another place that I hold near and dear to my heart because I've been there a zillion times, and it's a great area. And excited to have her joining us today. Alanna, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to chat with you all.
Oh, it's going to be a great conversation, and I'd love to kind of just start at the beginning. I love your story and how you got to us. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit about your background and what kind of led you ultimately to coming on and taking a look at the Homewell opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, it's nice to meet you all. My name's Alanna again, and I have a finance background. So I spent my whole career in corporate America, working behind a computer, crunching numbers. But my path to Homewell kind of starts two different routes. One is from my great grandmother. She lived until she was about 102 years old, and my grandma was her primary caregiver. And my grandma was burnt out, so she went and outsourced a caregiving service similar to Homewell, and just didn't have the best experience, and was going through different agencies and just didn't find a good fit. So it's always been in the back of my head of like, how can I bring that to the community that I'm in and make it the best it possibly can. And then on the flip side, on my husband's side of the family, my father-in-law and my aunt-in-law, they actually own a Homewell agency over in Texas. So for the past 3 years, I've been kind of shadowing and learning from them. And I've just always had in the back of my head, how can I bring this to Indianapolis? And about April of this year, we started talking about it. And August, we took our first client. So we are very, very new, but we're growing, and it's been amazing.
So for me, help us understand the mindset, right? You come from a finance background. Obviously, this is a people business. And although you're a great people person, two different types of roles. So
Yes.
walk through your kind of mindset as you went through the education process with us, and how did that change because of your unique background in finance, and how did you apply that to looking at this opportunity?
That's a great question. And when I was doing my research, I was very diligent. I said, does Homewell give support? But do they also allow us to run the business kind of like a family-owned business? And that is exactly what Homewell does. In the beginning, they hold your hand as much as you want them to, but they give you all the resources you need to set you up for success. There's a few months of trainings and just learning the industry, how to sell, how to hire the right people. But then once you're up and running, they're like, you run your business and you come to us when you need support. So that's really what attracted me to come to Homewell. But then on from my financial background, it's really nice because they help give us targets. They help they have us create a business plan and a P&L and financial projections, and all of that I really, really loved because it's not just a free for all, run with it. They have structure behind it, which I really love.
Yeah, I think you hit on a very important part there. Is it's one thing to look at this and say, hey, we get to help people. Like there's a really good feeling, and I know we talked a little bit about that yesterday, and we'll get into that, of that personal satisfaction you get out of running a business like this.
Yes.
But you can't do that if you're not operational because you're not making any money, right?
Yes.
That's what
Yep.
it comes down to. And so from your side, when you look at it from a finance perspective, did you have any like preconceived notions about the industry or about this type of business model coming from that side? Because I think that's a unique distinction when you're looking at a business and having that type of background.
Yeah. I mean, the business model is pretty simple. You find people that need care and you find people that can provide care and you match them. A lot of people say it's kind of like a dating service. You just find people that work with each other and it runs itself. Of course, there are other operational costs and things like that, but there aren't that many costs involved because it's really just finding the right people and putting them in the right spots. So that's what I really liked. But like you said, we're working with people and it's not a product. So you have to make sure customer service is at your forefront. We did a competitive analysis, which is part of the onboarding process with HomeWell, and Of course, there's tons of competitors, but are they ones that provide the utmost customer service and always answer the phone with a smile and always show up at the door just to check in on how things are going? So I know I was kind of going on a tangent there, but yeah, it's a great market and the business model is pretty simple.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's, again, you hit it. This is a people business and it is a customer service business.
Yes.
Let's talk about the competitors because you brought it up, and I think that's a great area to dive into. When
Yeah.
you did your competitive analysis, speak to maybe how many big competitors you saw in your market, and now as you're up and running and operational, what does that look like? Do you run into them a lot? Is there like what does that kind of piece look like to you right now?
Yeah, so we probably called on about 10 to 12 different agencies around. And I will say about 3 to 5 of them are really well-known names. But there's a lot of mom and pop agencies as well. And when we did the competitive analysis, like I said, a lot of the times we called and it either went to voicemail or, hey, we're in a meeting, can we call you back? Those types of things, which I was just like, okay, it's noted. Like we really need to be customer service focused. And then as far as seeing them around, a lot of people have their branded cars and you kind of see them, but as far as marketing goes, we really don't run into them. You see on different communities walls of just different competitors, but it's really just going into those different communities and saying, give us a chance and we won't we'll prove you right, like come give us a try. So there's always more people needing care. So the competitors, we don't truly feel that impact, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard somebody say a couple days ago, it's not really a competitor, it's
Mhm.
a contemporary, right?
Yes,
Like you're looking around, and while yes, there's other businesses that do the same services, at the end of the day, there's at the end of it is a client that needs help.
yes.
And I think that's really unique to this industry is while you want to get as much business as you can, if you got
Mhm.
all the business, there's no way you're going to be able to service it. That's just the fact.
Right.
And so while it's great to have a growing business, the reality is that there's enough space and growth available that you can have two, three, four nice competitors or contemporaries that you work alongside with to give the care to the people that need it. And I think that's where the value comes in a business like this.
And we've even found that some competitors refer to us because they can't staff it, or there's just other reasons. Maybe they don't take private pay, they're Medicaid focused or VA focused, and we take the private pay. So there's a lot of movement, and we work alongside each other, not really against each other.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. So let's start. You went through the training. Let's talk about licensing because in
Yes.
Indiana you do need a license. Talk us through, and every state's going to be different on this. So I just want to be clear. Some states are a little bit easier, and some states take a little bit longer. But talk to us about your process from a licensure side. How much did you do? Obviously, you probably did all of the actual paperwork of it because you're required to. But what was the input from our side, from HomeWell side, to help you through that process, and what did that collaboration look like?
Yeah, so Indiana, I will say, I think is one of the easier states. So I want to make that very clear. Other states take a lot longer. Some take a little bit shorter. But when I first started, obviously I had my father-in-law, but they're over in Texas and it's a completely different licensing process. But Homewell actually connected me with another owner over in Valparaiso, Indiana. And she was a fantastic resource. I have to give her so much credit. Yes, of course, I went through all of the paperwork, but she really, really supported me with that. She kind of handed me a template of here's all the things you need. Here's some of the things I learned. Here's the mistakes I made. Don't make those mistakes. And I believe we applied for our license middle of May and we received our license middle of July. So it took just about 2 months, which is very, very quick. But I think it's really because I knew exactly which mistakes not to make. I was very diligent in making sure all things tied out. And the state, surprisingly, was pretty easy to work with. So,
Yeah, that's great. And again, I think everybody has a unique story when it comes to licensing, but I think what I heard there was you called up another owner and they were willing to
yes.
help. And
Oh,
part of joining a franchise is not only the support you get from us as a franchisor, but other franchisees. And I'm sure when that call comes to you, Alanna, and another owner, you'll be like, yeah, absolutely, let me help. And that is the power of a network that you're joining, right? Is that community of people. And so that's a fantastic story to hear. So you applied for your license, now you're waiting. What did you do? You had a couple of months, you knew it was going to be some timing. What did you do
Yep.
during that process?
That's when we started looking for our office space. That's when we furnished our office space. That's when we just started getting all of the paperwork in line so that when we got that license, it was go time. That's when I started just looking around. How am I going to source my first hire? Who, in this case, we decided to hire a director of business development, which in other terms is a marketer. We really just wanted to get everything in line so that right when we got our license, we could start go into the market. And that's exactly what we did. So I sourced my office building, we furnished it, we got all of the necessary paperwork lined up, all of the different vendors that I'm working with as far as payroll goes, billing, WellSky, which is our management system. I just got all of those things in line again to press go right when we got that license in hand.
Did you feel like when you got your license and you were ready to launch that you were confident to run your business at that point? And I go back to like the training that you had went through because obviously during a lot of those times you're going through our launch well training and certification process. So did you feel like that was adequate? Obviously, you're always learning. It's a business. It's changing. So that never stops, no matter what business you're in. But how did you, when you got your license and you're like, all right, time to go, what was your feelings like?
I was ready. And I want to preface, I'm very new to this industry. I mean, I learned it from the ground up, but HomeWell did such a great job of, even in the onboarding process, we did role play scenarios of, okay, you got your first client. Now what do? You have to go into the home and actually do a care assessment. And what details are necessary in the care assessment? How do you collect payment from them? Okay, now how do you schedule them? Well, Sky's a great resource as well. We did lots of trial and errors of how do you schedule someone in the platform? Okay, now you have that. How do you hire a caregiver? So we really go through all of those scenarios so that when it's go time, you're ready. And then in addition to that, here at HomeWell, they offer your franchise business owner or franchise business support to come and actually visit your office building and make sure you have all the paperwork needed. You have all these different binders and everything is completely set for you. So it was I was ready and it was really great. So.
Yeah, that's a key point. About typically 2 to 3 weeks before an owner is really ready to launch, we do an on-site visit, and our opening services manager and the business coach that you're working with come out and they visit for 2 days, and they do a deep dive, as you know,
Yep.
to make sure that you have your I's dotted, your T's crossed, and you're ready to go. And it's a very important part of that kind of final phase prior to launching your business because the better that you can launch, the more successful you're going to be long term. We know that. And so we want to make sure that you're set up for success from day one. You launch your business. What does your staff look like? Like you said, you hired a director of business development, a marketer. Was that it? What does it look like currently?
Yeah, so really to prepare us for that day one, we had a director of business development start with us. And that is because I felt confident enough to kind of manage the business behind the scenes, start hiring caregivers, things like that. But I wanted someone to go out into the market and blitz the market. I want everyone to know about HomeWell. I mean, we are brand new to Indiana or Indianapolis. Everyone needs to hear about us. So he was our first hire. I absolutely think, in my opinion, that was the right way to go for us, especially because HomeWell was new to our area. So he was out marketing, really doing a blitz for probably those first 2 months, where I was on the other side hiring caregivers. I was told you just got to keep hiring because you never know what type of client's going to call you, maybe today, and it could be a 24-hour client, and you don't want to turn someone down. So I was there at the office just doing interviews and orientations while Patrick was out in the field just marketing as much as he can. In current state, we now have onboarded as well a care manager, and we say she's the retention specialist. So she checks in both on the client side and also the caregiver side. She does everything from our care assessments to weekly to every other week quality assurance check-ins. If anything comes up as far as a coaching opportunity, she jumps in. And that's helped a lot just with standardization, allows us to grow, allows us to not skip over anything. We just really want to be diligent to make sure that all of our clients are getting quality care and the right people are in the right seats.
So how has that helped you focus on your business, right? Because as business owners, it's very easy to get wrapped up in the
Yes.
day-to-day, minute by minute running of the business. But
Mhm.
obviously you can't do everything all at once.
Yes.
So how has adding that extra person helped you maybe focus more on the parts of your business that are going to help it grow?
It has helped so much. And I've learned a lot about myself throughout this process. I really love being kind of in control, running all different aspects of the business, but I've learned that I need to start just trusting other people, and it's helping so much. Both Michelle and Patrick have relieved a lot from my plate, but also since they're the subject matter experts, they're the ones that can help grow and make sure it's truly quality. Because again, I'm new to this industry, so we have a CNA as a care coordinator. She knows a lot more of what's truly needed on the client side. And then Patrick, he's a SME, a subject matter expert in the marketing field. So he knows how to get into those communities, who to talk to. And that allows me to take a step back, look at growth, and do some of the behind the scenes work.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's talk about retention as kind of a final type topic here. We know that retention of caregivers is as important, and retention of your Patrick and your
Yeah.
internal, your CNA, like that, they're equally important. I believe in our opinion. What types of things are you doing to show the caregivers,
Mhm.
because we talked about it, you can go out and get 100 caregivers, but you might only
Yes.
hire 2, right? So walk us through your mindset as far as hiring of your staff goes, and more specifically on the caregiver side. And then once you get that person, how are you retaining them? What does that look like to you?
Yep. So, going back to our competitive analysis that I talked about a little bit ago, one of the questions that I asked, I also did some research on Indeed and things like that, is how much they're paying their caregivers. And I wanted to be on the far end of that. I want to pay the caregivers more. Money talks, and I want to make sure that we're rewarding people for the good hard work that they're doing. Giving care to someone is not easy, and they should be rewarded for that. So that's one way that we just, as a foundation, we pay our caregivers more than the market average. But in addition to that, we really pride ourselves on the culture that we've developed, even just in the short time. We are all very positive. We hope that it's fun to work with us. After their first shift, we always check in, make sure it's a good fit for both sides. Like I said, it's kind of like that dating service. If it's not a good fit for the caregiver as well, we need to make an adjustment, or else that caregiver is going to go elsewhere. So doing those check-ins. But then on the fun side as well, we do a caregiver of the month. We celebrate one person every single month for something fantastic they did. It could be for various different reasons, maybe picking up lots of last minute shifts, or doing something great while giving care. We offer referral bonuses, mileage bonuses, those types of things, just to show our appreciation for our caregivers, so that they hopefully stay with us for as long as possible.
Yeah, again, it's Michelle Cohn, our senior VP of training and brand program, says it best. It's not the recruitment part that's the hard part, it's the retention. And
Absolutely.
and it's
Yep.
and it's not as hard as people think. It's just paying attention. It's
Mhm.
people.
Yep.
And as simple as that sounds, you
Yep.
have to execute on it and have a plan to execute on it, which obviously you guys do a fantastic job of that, as you guys continue to grow. What advice would you give to somebody, as either A, they've decided to do this, and hey, if you're gonna do this, here are the things that you just need to be prepared for. These
Yep.
are the things that are gonna help you be successful and launch really well and grow your business.
I would say take your time in the onboarding process with HomeWell. You all know I like to rush through things. As I wanted to get open as soon as humanly possible. But you all kept reminding me, trust the process, sit through the trainings, it will be value add. And now looking back, it was very, very much value add. So that's one piece of advice. Another piece of advice is, from my perspective as an owner, I like to build a culture that everyone on our team is a caregiver, and they will forever be a caregiver, regardless of their title, regardless of their tenure. Everyone on our team is a caregiver and needs to be willing to step in when needed. As we've mentioned, caregivers are sometimes hard to retain, or sometimes life happens. We get snow in Indiana, and sometimes people just don't feel comfortable driving in the snow. And that's when maybe one of us staff members have to jump in and take over a shift. So I would just advise you to understand again that this is as people, not a product, and you don't want to leave someone behind that door without care when you make that promise. So be ready to step in if you need to.
Yeah, that's it. And being accountable to it's your business,
Yes.
right? Every day, all day, it's your business, and you have to be okay with that. And that's what it's all about. But what's the last question? Because I just keep coming up with a question now, but this is the last one. What's the most rewarding part of this over what you were doing?
It's the impact that we're having on the lives of our clients and our caregivers. We hear from clients that they've gone through other agencies, and sometimes people are just sitting on their phones. They don't show up, but we are always there. We're always on time, and we provide quality care. So hearing that our clients are thankful for us really lets me sleep easy at night. But then also from the caregiver side, we've heard stories of, thank you for giving this job to me. I mean, I was able to move into a bigger apartment, and now my kids can have their own rooms. And just knowing that on both sides, we're truly making an impact, even though it can be a roller coaster of a day. At the end of the day, both sides, I mean, we're impacting both. So
Yeah, that's what we're about here at HomeWell, everybody. I mean, it's really about running a great business and making an impact across every community that we serve. We talk about our the communities that we serve, the approaches that we take, and the passion that we do it with. And Alanna, you are a great example of that. Not only in Indiana, but across the country as you're continuing to grow and be an awesome part of our franchise organization. And we're so lucky to have you. And thank you. Thank you for taking some time today with us. I'm gonna stop there, and I didn't see any questions that came in.